All right. Good morning, guys. So today is the day I'm going to be doing my live reactions to your tracks, giving you some feedback, giving you some thoughts on what I think you can do to improve your tracks, specifically for the TV film licensing business. Okay, that's my specialty. That's my little niche that I do well in. So all of my notes that I give you guys are going to be revolving around how to, crank up your mix to make it more on par with the professionals, maybe how to produce things a little bit more tightly, or maybe updating and switching your samples, working on some transitions you should do, or maybe even structuring your tracks. Maybe you have intros that are way too long or outros that are way too long. There's a lot of common things that normally are the big issues when it comes to creating production music for this industry. So just so you know, that's where my focus and my notes will be for all of your tracks. Now, I received well over 100 tracks, so I was kind of blown away with the amount of enthusiasm you guys had for this offer. So, which I'm stoked for. It's really cool to just kind of get to know you guys a little bit better. Obviously, members of the Syndicate, I know their music fairly intimately. I listen to their music on a weekly basis, but a lot of you guys on my YouTube channel, I haven't heard anything you guys have done. Maybe a few of you guys have sent me some tracks here and there, but this is a great way for me to really kind of get to know you guys and to really hear what you're capable of, where you are as producers, so that I can know maybe where to help steer things, in the future with the videos that I put up on this channel. Now, I am going to disappoint probably 5 or 10 of you because 5 or 10 of you did not follow the directions and you sent me a track to review incorrectly. And so I will not be reviewing your track because you did not follow very clear, easy to follow instructions. The instructions were, you must be subscribed to my YouTube channel. I think everybody followed that one. But number 2, sending a direct link to one track, no attachments, to jesse@musicmakescash.com. Most people emailed me. I had a couple people send me Facebook Messenger links, and I was like, not following the directions there. But I did say send a direct link to a track, no attachments. So 5 to 10 of you guys sent me MP3s, you sent me waves, you sent me things that I had to download to listen to, and not following directions. I don't want to download a whole bunch of files to my computer. I don't. It's same thing with a music library. If you're going to be sending music to them, you should be sending them direct links to files. You should not be asking them to download an MP3 or a wave or anything to listen to your music. Okay, so that one, quite a few of you guys did not follow the directions on that one. And then finally, I said put review my track as the subject line. Some of you guys said listen to this, listen to my song, review my song. The only exception I made to that was if you guys said review my track, please. Then I would give you sort of the benefit of the doubt there. That was a nice addition you put on there, so I wasn't a stickler on that. But why am I being such a stickler about this? Why am I not just reviewing everybody's tracks? Well, it's a lesson to be learned that when you're in this business and somebody says, I need you to give me 24-bit 48K wave stems, and they need to be sent to this folder or this Dropbox folder or emailed here or put in this whatever FTP folder, you got to follow directions specifically. You got to do exactly what people need you to do if you want to do business with them, okay? So that's why I want to reward those of you that took the time. And I put these instructions in the email I sent, in the video that I was, telling you guys I was going to do this, and also in the description box of that video. So there were 3 different places you could have seen all of these instructions. And so maybe you got excited and just said, hey, let me just throw my music over to Jesse. But you really need to take the time to make sure you're following directions. Excuse me. If you want to get pretty far in this business, because the reason why I had these instructions is to keep my life very organized. Getting 100 emails here plus on top of the emails I get every single day, I got to categorize this stuff and make sure that I can find it really quickly and it's all easy to go in my email inbox. So anyways, with that said, we're going to get through as many as we can today. If we don't get through all 100 or 100 plus, whatever it is, I'll split this up probably into 2 different streams because honestly, my voice will just start giving out after a while. There's a lot of music to get through, and I want to try to be as specific and detailed as I possibly can with your notes. All of the reviews and all of the feedback I'm going to be giving you guys is brought to you by the Syndicate today. Now, in case you're not familiar, the Syndicate is a private Facebook group that I've set up, and it's basically mentorship, further education, licensing opportunities homework assignments, reviewing your tracks. Those are all the things that you get as being a member of the syndicate. So as you can see, we have a licensing opportunity going on now. We have one every single month. There's always one going on. I'm giving you guys insights as to what's going on in my life and the interesting phone calls that I get in this business. We do Google Hangouts, so I actually get together with you guys, and we talk about the last time we had one, it was just about how to stay productive, and we talk about tips and strategies that we each use to be productive. A lot of the members wanted to know, how do I crank out so many tracks in such a short amount of time? Well, there's a specific methodology and a strategy that I do to make sure I do that. We also have weekly homework assignments. So, this week we were doing building a massive EDM buildup. So I kind of go through and give you guys some structure on what I'm looking for these things. And the idea of these homeworks is basically to give you guys some sort of deadlines. They are artificial because you don't have to participate in them, but the members that do participate in them seem to get the most out of this group. They seem to get the most, they see the most progress in their production and in their productivity. So every single week I offer these. Sometimes they're just open reviews, kind of like what I'm doing right now with my Facebook group. So you can literally just post whatever you're working on, and then at the end of the week I go through and review everybody's tracks and just give you sort of some feedback. So you get basically further in-depth guidance into producing and making sure your tracks are up to par as you're a member of this group. And of course, here, here's a homework review I did. This was the open reviews I did. And as you'll see, this one, I think, an hour and 47 minutes long, as you can see right there. So there's no joke. There's a lot of reviews. There's a lot of music that goes on in this group. But I want to make sure that if you take the time to upload something for an opportunity or a homework assignment, you get guidance. You get that sort of specific feedback that maybe you've been needing in your career to make sure that you're on par with all the professionals. So anyways, more homework assignments. We're doing some, polls and all that kind of stuff. I also do some reviews of the licensing opportunity. So about every week when you submit for an licensing opportunity, I'll go through, and this one was an hour long, and I'll go through and actually review your guys' tracks and, basically let you know what you need to do to change it, to get it a little bit closer to what I'm looking for, to include it on the album that I want to distribute. This is one of our members saying that he got his first royalty statement last Friday, so that's pretty awesome. So anyways, guys, that's what this is all about. If you want to learn more, there's a link below this video. You can click on that. There's an explainer video. It'll explain to you everything you need to know for how to get started, including what's all included with the Syndicate membership when you get enrolled. So without further ado, let's get started. The first one I received was Majestic On To Track, and you did send me a link, and you did put review my track in the subject line. So we're going to listen to your song.
Majestic on a track.
Okay, so the first thing that I'm noticing already is that this beat is probably for a rapper. It's kind of stripped away. There's not a lot going on, and it's fairly minimal. So having a rapper on top is probably what it needs to complete itself. So two pathways you can go forward with this one. You can either go get a rapper, or if you rap yourself, throw yourself on the track, and then you can shop this as a full vocal track to a library. But as it stands now, it's way too minimal. There's not enough going on. You're going to need something more musically. You need other instruments kind of taking my attention and pushing the track forward. One of the things that I say to a lot of Syndicate members is about every 4 or 8 bars, you want either a new instrument coming in, or you want kind of a new pattern happening, or maybe change up the percussion or the drums. You got to keep things moving along. In pop music, it's the vocals that keep things moving along, because the vocals are changing every line. I mean, there's new lyrics, there's a new melody, there's new whatever. Something's always happening with vocals, so they kind of can help a track move forward momentum-wise. But without vocals, you got to maybe throw a string in here, maybe get another pluck instrument or a synth thing going on. Whatever you want to do. You could do some cool growls. You could actually maybe make this a hybrid where you throw some orchestral elements on top of it, but it's got to have more musically going on, as if you want to actually, get placed with a music library. Yeah, because you see how there's like really barely anything going on here. It sounds great. Don't get me wrong. I like your track, but it's just way too minimal right now as it is. So you're going to need to beef this thing up. You got to add more to it if you want to sort of grab the attention of a music library. Yeah, so it sounds like that's kind of what it is going forward. And you know, one thing you also want to make sure is that when you're repeating sections, like you have your hook 1, hook 2, or hook 3, in the TV film licensing world, you got to add more stuff to hook 2, and you got to add even more to hook 3. Every part needs to be distinct in some, even if it's a small subtle way. Maybe hook 3 has bigger strings on it, hook 2 has some vocal edits on it or something like that, or some like stuttered vocals. You got to like mix up all of your parts, because a music supervisor and editor can literally loop any part they want. Like they can just go, hey, this chorus is cool, we're just going to loop that 8 times, and that's going to be the undercurrent or the underscore for this scene. But if they need something more intense, they need to have option number 2 and option number 3, which would be chorus 2 or chorus 3. So you shouldn't be, you know, a lot of producers, they get in this bad habit of like, all right, cool, I got a verse in the chorus, let me just copy and paste, cool, I got a whole song. It's a little bit more complicated than that in the TV film world. You got to have a little bit more, provide more options, differentiate all of your parts a little bit so that verse 1 sounds a little different from verse 2, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's kind of the main thing going on with your track. And that's kind of what I'm going to do today, guys. I'm not going to be able to go through your entire tracks without obviously 100 songs. We got to get through this in a timely manner. So I'm going to basically just go find the biggest things that we need to do to get your tracks more on par to be ready to be licensed. And if there's nothing I can say, then I'm just going to give you a bunch of praises. But we're just going to go on to the core of what's going on with your track. So, hey, Jesse, you offer great advice. It's seriously helped you understand the licensing business. Great. I would be happy to review your track. Pall of Creation. Cool name. Okay, the first thing I'm noticing is where's the bass? I don't have any low end coming through here. Sorry, the YouTube videos are popping up. I'm not hearing a lot of low end thud going on in your mix. So the kick needs to be a lot heavier. Everything on the low end needs to come up a little bit. The mix sounds like it's up in the tweeters. It sounds like it's really up high. And so it's not giving me that full low end thud, boom, impact right into my chest. You got to have that. That low end energy is what's going to deliver you that excitement about your track that people are going to go, damn, this is dope. Without that low end, it kind of falls apart. So I don't know if you're mixing probably without a subwoofer, but if you're not, that's okay. You do need to invest in some headphones that can give you some feedback on what's going on with your low end right now, because it sounds like you're just mixing on some high end tweeter speakers, and we've kind of neglected all the low end here. That's the first thing that's bothering me. Also, I think it's a little bit minimal. Like, I like the vibe that you're going with here, but it's the entire composition needs to have a little bit more going on, because you have this guitar part kind of repeating over and over again. You know, it's kind of doing the same thing. It might change a note or whatever, but you want to be very careful, especially in the TV film world, of not getting too much in a loopy sound. If your track starts, what I call it, like the treadmill sound, if your track starts feeling like it's doing this, it's not really moving forward. It's kind of doing the same thing, and we're not really moving, we're not progressing forward. Chances are you probably won't get a lot of placements with a track like this, or maybe it might not even get accepted, because when you put tracks behind a TV show, remember, it's all about the forward momentum of the show. So if it's, let's say, this is what we were working on in the Syndicate last month, was elimination cues. So there's a scene where somebody's about to get kicked off of a competition show or whatever, cooking show. It doesn't matter what it is. You need to have the sense of what's going to happen next, right? It's almost like the track and the video, the scene, all of it needs to be screaming, don't you dare change the channel, because something's going to happen. Somebody's going to get eliminated. Somebody's going to get fired, right? Like, you have to provide the sense of, ooh, this is going to happen. So this track, because it's like doing the same thing over and over again, I don't feel like we're moving towards something, you know. And I know this isn't like a tension track or anything, but like, I still don't feel like we're moving towards, I better not turn this off because I want to know what happens later. So your music needs to convey that sense of urgency, that don't you dare turn that dial, don't you dare look somewhere else, because something is going to happen here, or something is unfolding. Even if it's like a romantic scene, right? The music needs to convey the sense of constant unfolding. Oh yeah, we're discovering our love for each other, or something like that, right? So no matter what it is, forward momentum is key. You got to get away from looping things, you know, doing the copy and paste, copy and paste. You got to try to get away from that as much as you possibly can and try to create, you know, if you're going to do looping things, you need to maybe have longer progressions. Like maybe instead of doing like a 4-bar progression, do a 16-bar progression. So nothing repeats in 16 bars. Then you can do another 16 bars. And then on that 16 bars, you add another instrument, or you kind of add a counterpart to it, or you start adding drums or whatever it is to make the whole track kind of come to life and always like, wow, there's something new always happening. And you don't really get that feeling like the same thing's just looping. Yeah, so I would encourage you, Paul, to get away from doing these kind of like repetitive loopy progressions and try to space out a little bit more, more of your bass chord progressions and not have it repeat so often, so that you can try to get that more of a forward momentum feel with your track. So I'd say that's the way to go for you. All right, Joe, you appreciate the time to do it. You love my channel. Right on, man. Here's a direct link. We can't be friends. Cool. Joe, let's see what you got here, buddy. Thanks for following directions. And a direct link right to your track. So that's awesome, man. Thank you.
We can't go on like this. We can't just coexist. Nope.
First of all, already love it. You grabbed my attention in 1 second. This is a kind of a lesson that we all need to learn in this industry, that even in the pop world, you guys know that like grabbing your listeners' attention very quickly is very important these days. Our attention spans are just nothing. You get basically 1 to 3 seconds, and then if you're not grabbed by a song, you kind of move on. So that really cool stuttering vocal thing you had going on grabbed me. I was like, it's bright, it's catchy, it's staccato. You know, staccato notes typically will grab our ears a little bit more, especially these days. That's kind of where pop music is. And then your vocals come right in. Your vocals sound great. So first of all, grabbing my attention right away, you already got that.
Putting on a show so they can believe us, acting like nothing ever happened between us. Yeah, it ain't no mystery that we're in misery, girl. This just don't work for me, so listen what I say. I know it sounds immature, but I just can't pretend. And if I can't have you, girl, then we can't be friends. I've seen it all 1,000 times.
All right, man. So music sounds awesome. Like the vocals. I have a couple of ideas or notes for you. So the mix right now is very small, right? So it sounds like you've overcompressed on your mastering, and the mix is really, really tiny. This song could be boom, cranking out of my speakers right now, but it feels like it's all been sort of wrapped together, and it's in a tiny little package right now. So you might want to look at how you're mastering these things, if you're mastering yourself, to ease up a little bit on your compression and actually just boost up your levels of your tracks, or maybe even of your master bus. Maybe you can put I do a lot of adaptive limiting on mine, and I like to crank up my overall volume that way. But I think going away from your compression a little bit, I hear a little bit of pumping, and it's a little bit too compressed. Now let's talk about your lyrics. So the more generic you can get with your lyrics, probably the more uses you'll find in the TV film world. Now in the Syndicate, most of the stuff we do is instrumental, so we will talk about vocals and lyrics at some point, probably in the future. But I can tell you this for sure, that like when you had that word girl in this track, you kind of basically put yourself, if you're going to do TV film licensing, if this is just to do pop music, okay, you can ignore this. But if you're thinking about getting into TV film licensing, or maybe building a new catalog with just music for TV film licensing, you probably want to stay away from things like putting girl, whatever you said in that chorus right there. Let me see.
And if I can't have you, girl.
Right, I can't have you, girl. Now, if somebody's going to use this track on their TV show, now they have to use it in terms of it has to be applying to a male character wanting a female, right? Because your lyrics now say, if I can't have you, girl. So that has to now resonate with the storyline, the plot line. If you would have just said, and if I can't have you, babe, or I can't have you, whatever, or just I can't have you, now it can go both ways, right? There can be a female character that's really desiring a male character, and that can go back. So that's just one thing I would sort of steer you towards. It's good to have like, you know, this kind of title, We Can't Be Friends. Obviously, there's a very specific storyline here. There's a very specific topic, and that's good. But when you're writing your lyrics for the TV film world, try not to like pigeonhole yourself into like, well, only people who have scenes with guys chasing girls with this specific situation could use this. You want to kind of open it up as much as you possibly can.
Then we can't be friends. I've seen it all 1,000 times. I know the way the story ends. Don't even wanna bother trying, no, 'cause we can't be friends. No, no, no. I said no.
And I also hear this in corporate advertising, man. Like advertising, commercials, they love this kind of stuff. This kind of upbeat, acoustic pop stuff. Like they're gonna love this all over the place. So it might be an avenue you might want to look into getting into. But also, yeah, need more low end on your mix too. Like it feels like everything is really, really high up there in the high frequencies, and I'm not getting that punch through with your bass or your kick or whatever. So definitely take a look at your mixing and see what you can do there to improve that. But really cool stuff, man. I like that one. All right, David, a new track you did with Science Futuristic Tension. Cool. Let's see what you got here, man. So this one already is probably more of a minimal kind of like backstory, background cue. And there might be some uses for that. I will say though that like just getting started in this business, I probably wouldn't see a lot of libraries accepting this right off the bat. But let me listen to more of what you have. But right now it just seems very minimal, and this would be kind of like a cool, you know, backdrop you could have to some sort of a show. But typically, if you're going to get into a library to start with, they're going to probably want something that's more of like a song. You know, they're going to want a fully produced track. It can be rock, pop, EDM, hip hop, country, dubstep. I mean, it can be almost any genre you want to do, but it needs to be probably like a fully produced track. I didn't get started on these kind of minimal things for probably like 3 or 4 years into my career when people were starting to request these sort of deals. So if you find somebody that's looking for it, hey, go for it. But I'm just telling you, in my experience, typically they wanted to start with, you know, a fully produced track, kind of get those up and running, and then eventually you'll start getting custom cues. So like, you know, typically these days how it works in my career is people will just hit me up and say, hey, we're working on this TV show, we need cues like this. They'll send me the references, and my tracks are going directly to a TV show. So a production company or, you know, somebody involved closely with them is getting my tracks into these TV shows. So that will happen as you build some relationships and some contacts, and, you know, your sort of like your clout in this business starts to grow. But in the beginning, I would probably steer away from making minimal tracks, and I would go towards fully produced, you know, but get those drums in there, bass, guitar, you know, make it a fully produced song. Drums are very timid here. I would like boost those up a little bit because it's got a cool ethereal, you know, mysterious vibe here. I like it, but we need to like feel those drums punching through. It's one of the big issues with producers I found is getting those drums to really hit through the mix and really pound. And a lot of people get a little bit they're a little bit timid about making those drums as loud as possible. So, but you'll get there. But you got to always just try to push those things a little bit louder, especially for this mix, because the drums obviously provide that energy. That's like, hey, this is cool. We're moving somewhere, right? It gives you that moving forward momentum. So, but if the drums aren't punching through the mix or not loud enough, you don't get as much of that energy. Yeah, so that's what I would say is probably focus more on producing full tracks if you're just getting started, and you probably will find some better results that way. So, all right, let's go back to where we were, and we need to go back one more, even more. We had a lot of tracks. Sorry, guys. All right, Colin, you got one here. Okay, so I hear corporate music all over this thing. So this feels good. It's inspirational. We're moving somewhere. But I think mix-wise, we need a lot more balance happening here. I feel like things are sort of very separated. I feel like the mix is not cohesive. It doesn't feel like this band was in the same room or in the same studio making this track. It feels like the drums were over here, the horn player was over there. So there needs to be a little bit more mix and blend and balance of the elements together. Let me listen to a little bit more and see if I can give you some more specific feedback. Okay, so one thing that's kind of bothering me is there are a lot of changes to the drum parts. So you do these like kind of, you know, you had the ride cymbal here. And then it just kind of goes to that hi-hat and then it goes back to the ride, but it didn't feel like there was a reason for it to do that. If it was supposed to be a part where we kind of subdue the whole mix and we come down just to rest and pause and then come back up, we should just crash and let the music just sit there. And then when it comes back up, do a drum fill, and then you could do something like that. But changing up, kind of like I heard that a couple of times where you just changed up a drum pattern or something in the middle of the chord progression. It's a little bit distracting, and it kind of feels like that's also giving me the sense that these are not connected and cohesive, is because they're not all kind of singing together, if that makes sense. They're not all doing the same part and sort of all communicating the same thing. So here's a note about vocals. If you're going to throw vocals on something like this, I would say probably stay away from specific words, because again, you're pigeonholing what this track could be used for. It has to be, you know, your lyrics, do what is right, not what is easy. Now this track with these vocals would have to be used for something that follows that theme. Rather than using specific lyrics or something, I would do oohs, ahs, heys, you know, kind of do something that can be universal. It doesn't matter what you're advertising. A vocal element on there can just make it sound more well polished and a little bit, it'll bring it to life a little bit more, but you won't be putting yourself in a certain place. Now, I will say, I'm assuming you sang on this, maybe you had somebody else, but you got to do some more pitch correction, because I heard some wrong notes in your lead melody here. And with a TV film world, just like in the pop world, like you have wrong notes, a little bit pitchy vocals, and it's going to get rejected. And I'm just, you know, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to give you the wake-up call that before you go and submit your music to a library and they don't get back to you or they just reject you outright, this track would definitely get the axe, just because those vocals are not quite on par. Using a little bit of pitch correction is not the end of the world. I do it if I have to use vocals. Even if I have a great vocalist, I still throw pitch correction on things, just because if things are a little bit off here or there. You know, I can automate it, so it's not like the whole track uses a lot of it, but like if there's just one little note, it's like, you know, I don't want to re-record it, but it's like just a little off. I'll automate that sucker. I'll put on the you know, I'll make sure I correct it just for that one note, and then moving forward, you know, you're not going to hear that auto-tune anymore. But just make sure you're really taking care of those kind of things before you submit to a library, because they're going to hear that and go, not really into that kind of thing. And like when you have that crash right there and a second crash, I would probably just throw the crashes on your downbeats. You know, when you start your progression, that's the crash, and then just have the drum beat playing. But when you have that crash every 4 bars, it's kind of like the music's not screaming out, we need a crash cymbal, right? The music's just kind of progressing. It's just going on with the chord progression. And so throwing another crash cymbal again, it's one of those, like, these things don't really feel like they're singing together. Like this isn't all synced up. So try to really think about that and visualize that when you're producing, that, you know, all the instruments need to be kind of communicating a similar thing. So I'd say that's the biggest thing with your track there. All right, Extinguish the Sun. You are welcome. Let's see what you got here. All right, right, so first thing, super compressed, way too loud, okay? My speakers were already crackling right when the song came in. So you're gonna wanna back off of the overall volume, and you need to back off of your compression settings, right? This is just so big, so noisy, and it's just like in my head, it's just going da 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 da, you know. And maybe there will be somebody who needs that kind of crazy, out of control sound, but most likely they're not going to want something like this. Okay, so you need to back off. As you see how there's like a flat line on your WAV file. That means you did it wrong. Okay, if you ever have these flat lines like this, straight flat lines like that, that means you're clipping. Your mix is way too loud and things are distorting, and so you're gonna need to back off a little bit. I know we all want our tracks to be super loud, but when it's like this, you really are squeezing all of the life out of your mix, and it's gonna be really hard for anybody to enjoy it, because I guarantee you, I mean, I heard a little bit here, but going through this track, I can almost guarantee you that I won't be feeling the impact of your drums, I won't be feeling the impact of your guitars or your bass. It's not gonna be hitting me in a really impactful way, because it's been so compressed and it's so loud that there's no more dynamics in it, right? There's nothing that's punching. In order to get something to punch, there has to be quiet before it and after it, okay? If everything's super loud like it is now, there's no more dynamics. Everything's just loud, and that means that nothing is loud, right? It's kind of like a weird Zen Buddhist philosophy. Okay, so I'm having a hard time hearing your lyrics, and if I'm a music supervisor and I want to put a cool rock track on there and I need lyrics that convey whatever it is that I'm going for, I'm going to need to understand what the lyrics are. So right now, I mean, I'll pay a little closer attention, but the lyrics are definitely not jumping out at me. And it could be your mixing. It could be that you just need to boost up a little bit of high frequency so I can hear a little bit more of your, you know, the mouth movements, your consonants, your vowels. I need to hear more of that. But it also could be the way that you're singing, that you need to enunciate a little bit more. It was one of those things when I was producing with vocalists a lot. It was like my biggest word: enunciate, enunciate, enunciate. Open your mouth. You know, try to really emphasize your words, because especially when you have a lot of words coming at people for the first time, you got to make it super easy for them to hold on to them. Okay, so a little turnaround like that. I love the energy, by the way. I'm a metalhead, so like some of those screens reminded me of like Mudvayne. I used to love Mudvayne and stuff like that. So don't get me wrong, I like this style. I'm really digging it. But like this had a little timing issue right here when you had this little turnaround. You went from this chorus to this breakdown. So the guitars kind of rushed it, and then the drums were kind of coming in later, and then you guys synced up eventually. So you guys probably recorded this live, or you had, you know, whatever. You tracked this out or whatever. So what I would recommend is you guys record to a click track. If you guys aren't recording to a click track, and you gotta be on the grid the entire track through, no exceptions. Get your drummer on a metronome in the studio if he's recording. Get your guitarist. Everybody should be recording to a click track so that everybody's right on board. If you guys, you know, get to a part where the drummer or the guitarist screws up, you know, some part, back up, re-record that part, get it tight. Okay, so if this was recorded completely live, probably can't do much about that. So what I would suggest is make sure you guys are tracking one instrument at a time, and then when you have these kind of things like that, I'm sure you guys can hear that, you got to go back and fix it, right? Either, I don't know if it was the drummer or the guitarist, somebody didn't stay right on the grid, but you got to go back, fix that thing, right? You got to go re-record it. You can do one part at a time. When I had a rock band, we would do that all the time if we were recording our songs. We would just record the chorus. Let's just get this chorus super tight, and that's all we would work on. Then the verse came in, and then it's like, all right, let's make sure I was the drummer, got the verse right, and I would do it as many times as it took until that verse was solid on the click, right, on the metronome, and just a great performance. Then the guitarist would come in and record that. Sometimes I was the guitarist too, but we had other guitarists as well. But that's how it really has to be done, is you got to just take this one part at a time if you need to, but trying to get through an entire track, and if there's little issues here and there, it's not gonna pass with a music supervisor or a music library. So, but cool track, man. I like that rock stuff. It's great to hear new rock coming out because I don't hear enough of it. I don't think. Maybe I'm not looking enough of it. So, all right. So I don't know how to pronounce your name, but I know you've been around for a while. Nadej. So I apologize. I know I'm butchering that. After watching my video, you thought you'd jump on it. Here's a hip hop R&B. Cool that you want to submit. So let's check it out. So the first thing, I mean, you see me dancing, you got me moving, so that's great. Now the thing is though, it's kind of the same issue I had with the first track I reviewed, which was that this feels a little bit too stripped down and minimal for a TV film library. This sounds like this should have a vocalist on top of it. So again, your choice is bring a vocalist in, get a singer or a rapper, whatever you want to do, and throw it on this track, or you got to sort of beef up the production a little bit more, because just having like the one chord progression and a drum beat, it's just too minimal. There's not enough going on. It doesn't feel like it's forward momentum moving enough. So we need to have more instruments. We need to have more maybe percussion. Just new things need to be happening in this track to push it forward. Because right now it feels like it's kind of in this like looping sound. The same chord is just, or the same kind of progression is just going over and over again. Not a big fan of that lead. I probably would swap out that sound. I don't know. I'm thinking more about like a flute, like some sort of a cool distorted sounding flute would be better. Just that lead itself, it just sounded very like template sounding. Like it was just like a preset that came with some synthesizer, and it doesn't really motivate or inspire so much. So I would probably swap that out. The melody itself is not bad. You know, it's just kind of hard for me to judge unless it was with a new sound or something like that. But that sound itself really kind of was like, probably wouldn't be the choice that I would go with for a lead for that part. Now, the good thing you did here is you did sort of like have a dynamic change to the intensity of your track. So this is something that everybody needs to make sure you do in your tracks, especially for TV film, is after a big epic part, a lot of times you're going to want to contrast that by coming down to a very subdued, chill, whatever, you know, sort of piano kind of small part. And that's exactly what you're doing here, which is great. So you've already got that sort of sense of when you're producing. And so that's something you definitely want to carry with you moving forward as you increase your production, mixing and mastering skills, everything. Dynamics are so important in this business. You don't want to have tracks that are just whoosh, super loud the entire time. You want to have loud parts, bring it back down, build us back up, make it even louder than before, drop it down again, right? Bring us, I describe it as a roller coaster ride. You want to bring your listener on a roller coaster ride for the entire time. So this is kind of like cool and grooving, and if there was a vocalist, yeah, it would be moving a little bit better. But right now, like, I kind of want to hear, like, especially on this part. Dun, 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 dun. You know, I don't know if it's like a pluck or maybe some strings, but it needs like faster, upbeat, something happening in there, because it's like subdued when it's just like these long whole note chords. Bum, bum. You know, it's just very, it kind of makes you feel like you're just sitting still. But if you had something a little faster on top of it, dun, 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 kind of gives you the sense of, ooh, something's about to happen, right? And that's the key in this business. You got to give that forward momentum to your track. So keep it up, though. Very cool. Sergio, you enjoy watching the video. I'm creating a business and creating a community, and you're glad to be part of it. Right on, man. Chance to review your song, create music themes. Gotcha. You're very welcome, man. I like to just read this. I'm not going to read through everybody's comments, but, you know, I just like, again, I like to get to know who's watching me here on YouTube. Sometimes it feels it's one way because I'm just making videos. So I want to get to know you guys a little bit better. So again, really cool. I like the guitars. It's really clean, actually. Nicely produced. It's very minimal, and it might not be a track that you're going to get a lot of traction with immediately, especially submitting to a library or something like that. So it's probably better to wow them first off with a full track. So we'll see what you're doing at the very end here. But typically what I find is that like having a fully produced song is just what you're going to get more attention from when you go to a library. But maybe I spoke too soon. Let me hear. So I like all the instruments you're having. The one issue I'm having is because the guitar is just repeating over and over again. Again, we're kind of stuck in this little loop, right? It's just the same progression happening, and I keep hearing one or two of those guitar notes just really plucking out, and it just keeps hitting me right in the ears, right in the ears, right in the ears. So it's a little bit repetitive right now as it is. So you might want to just sort of change how you're doing that. But the other thing you can do is not change the guitar part, but just have other instruments sort of take the foreground, right? Become more of the lead, and that guitar can maybe throw a little bit more reverb on it, kind of push it more into the background. So it's more adding atmosphere to the track, and it's not leading us, and it's just dum bum 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 bum, because it's just doing that the entire time. And after a while, it's like, okay, I got it, right? I got it the first 4-8 bars. We don't need to hear it, 32 whatever, 44 to 44 bars, whatever. So we don't need to hear it for as long as it's probably going on now. So just keep that in mind, that when you're going to repeat anything with your tracks, you want to sort of provide interest and forward momentum, and maybe change up that part here and there, or make the chord progression a lot longer than just this like 4-bar repeating thing you have going on here. So this track has a lot of potential. I can hear how big this track could be. But when you have those crash cymbals, there should be like a low-end kick or something, or a big cinematic thumb, something that comes in to accent those as well. I don't even know if those crash cymbals should be there as often as they are. Maybe you want to keep those more sparse. But when you're going to have a big accent like that, we need to have more of a low-end kick as well. And I'm also just not hearing a lot of low-end from your mix overall. So whatever you're doing with your mastering, or maybe with your mixing, try to not be so, try not to cut out so much of your low end if you are cutting it out. Try to be a little bit more tolerant of those low end frequencies. Try to let a little bit more of them come through, especially with your guitar. Like, guitars can have a nice low end little thump to them, especially when you're plucking these things or you're finger picking them, however you recorded this. You want to get a little bit more of that low end energy in here. Okay, so be careful with your piano. So it's a beautiful track. You're actually like, you're putting me in a daze. I'm actually just kind of getting tranced out when I listen to it. So you got the emotional magic here. You know what you're doing there. But this piano, obviously, I know you recorded it just sort of freestyle, not freestyle, but not on the grid, right? I know you just recorded this and kept it as is. It's a little off timing-wise. It's too far off for it to be kept in there as is. So however you're recording, I'm assuming you did some MIDI or something. You want to get these things a little bit closer to being on the grid. I know that some producers, they don't want to be quantizing everything because they don't want it to sound robotic. I totally get that. But this performance, it's not close enough. You'd probably need to redo that piano because it's a little off timing wise. But this track, like, I want it to be here. I want it to be through the roof. And it doesn't quite get up there because I think the drums, the bass, it's not really pushing it forward. But it should be like, dum 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 bum 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 bum. You know, this could be an epic cinematic, even trailer piece that starts off very small and minimal and grows into something bigger. But it feels like we need a little bit more dynamic range here. It's like we're not really moving as big as it possibly can. This feels like kind of like it's a demo. It was like an idea you had, but it still needs to be fully produced. So I would look into getting some more cinematic drums, throwing them on there. and really just letting more of the low end kind of breathe through your track, because it needs a little bit more of that low end energy to carry it. All right, so let's go next to Youre. I'm sorry, man. I'm going to butcher all of you guys' names. I'm not even going to try. So here's a crime drama track. You finished. Hoping to review it. Absolutely, because you followed the directions. Love it. You grabbed my attention. One thing I'm not loving, though, is that the music kind of faded out a little bit too much there. So if you're going to put like a delay at the end of something like this, just let it trail out a little bit more so that the music kind of goes all the way to the end and then it comes back in. You really don't want to have any almost dead spots. That felt like kind of a dead spot there. Your clicking little percussion there, it's a little bit abrasive, it's a little bit intense. I would either throw some reverb on there or go to the very top of your EQ plugin. What I do is I boost up where I try to find that offending frequency, and you guys know what I'm talking about. If you boost up a certain frequency on some of your tracks, you'll hear this, you know, this huge distortion that comes through. Find it and then dip it down. That's what you need to do for that percussion. Okay, the one thing that you're doing great so far, man, is you are adding new elements every 4 bars, or even sometimes quicker than that. So I don't feel stuck at all. I feel like, hey, this is now coming in, now this is coming in, that went away. You have this constant, like, it flowing and evolving of your track. So you've got a great skill set. Don't let go of that. I might add some more drums. I know you have those low thuds, but maybe some more hand percussion, something a little more steady, like something that just kind of adds a little bit more to the low end. Right here, it feels like we need a little bit more energy to carry us forward. Those plucks are really loud. You might want to take those down a little bit. They're very, very loud compared to everything else. And then this string, this high string, you got to fade that out a little more gradually. You can't just have it cut out like it did. Like it just fades out. Put a tail on that, you know, throw some reverb on that, or maybe fade it out a little bit more gradually. But it's typically with strings, you want to give them some space to kind of, you know, let them go, you know, 2 or 3 seconds at least. Okay, so this is one lesson definitely that everybody can learn. We don't want to do fade outs on our tracks. We typically want to end them with a solid hit. Bam. And typically you want to do it with the root chord. A lot of libraries and supervisors will want that as an option to get out of the cue if they need to for any specific reason. You just give them that option. So we don't want to have a part where the drums just kind of fade and peter out. We want to have dun 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 dun, you know, give a crash cymbal, a big kick, or an 808 drop, whatever like that. But give it like a definite hit and probably a musical note to say, hey, finale, this is the end, you know. And a lot of times just going to your root note, what you started the track with, is typically how to give it that final, like, we're done feeling to it, okay? All right, JDM Imperial. Cool, man. Glad you're subscribed. Let's see what you got here. Okay, so first of all, very licensable sound. This sound is very popular in TV film libraries. Couple notes though, vocals are very quiet. I'm kind of straining to hear your voice, so maybe you did that on purpose because you didn't want it to be so out in the front, but in the TV film world, vocals got to be clear. They can't just be another instrument in the track. It's got to be produced like a pop track, meaning vocals need to be front and center, and all the instruments can be a little bit quieter. Because right now your guitars are kind of a little too loud. They're the ones that are coming at me, those stabs, those electric stabs, and your vocals are kind of back there somewhere, and I'm striving to hear them, but it's sometimes hard. But your vocal sound, your quality, awesome. I don't know if it's you singing or if you have a vocalist, but really cool voice. And this stuff definitely all over the place. TV commercials use this. TV shows like to use this kind of stuff. It's just a really cool spacey rock sound that a lot of people would really find a lot of use for this. One thing I'm noticing, your length here, 4 minutes 45 seconds, probably too long for something you're going to submit to a TV film library. They're going to typically want things that maybe 3:30 at the most, but if you look at most library catalogs, it's 2 to 3 minutes. That's kind of where it needs to be. That should give them enough options within one song to change, to give them those options. Now, I can't really hear the lyrics because the vocals are a little bit quiet. I'll try to listen now, though. Oh, that was the other thing. Some timing with your vocals. They feel a little bit rushed. So, which is whatever. You know, if you, just the way that you sing or your vocalist sings, you guys kind of typically go a little ahead of the beat. Just go in your session and push things back a little bit. That's typically what I did with a lot of vocalists. Vocalists tend to want to rush. They just want to, like, they're excited to sing. So there are a lot of times they're a little bit ahead of the beat. That always sounds off. If they're a little bit behind the beat, meaning you just take all their vocals and just shift everything over a little bit, delay it a little bit after the beat, normally starts to feel more lifelike and human and more relaxed. So rushed vocals always sound bad. Relaxed vocals or vocals that are a little bit behind the beat typically sound good. So it's something you can literally fix in like a second. You just grab all the vocals, push them over a little bit so they're not ahead of the beat. Yeah, I just need those vocals to come up because I love them and I like hearing them, but they're just so like, what is he saying? He's something cool. I want to hear what he says, right? So you don't want to have your listeners straining and wanting to hear what you're saying. So I'd bump those vocals up 3 dB at least, and then put those guitars back a little bit and just let your vocals kind of shine a little bit more. But man, really cool song. Solid mix too, man. Drums are pumping. Everything sounds great, man. So really great. Whoever's mixing it, if it's you, awesome work, man. All right, Homerick. Would love to review one of your tracks. Cool. Definitely will, Ken. The Mad Composer. Right on. Let's see how mad you are. Already super interesting, man. Really interesting stuff. I don't think I've heard music like this maybe ever. This is really interesting stuff. Your mix could come up a little bit. It's a little bit quiet. So this kind of really sounds like you've got this world thing really figured out here. So you got this really cool world sound that you're able to do. So that's a huge thing. And not a lot of producers can produce authentic sounding world music. There's a lot of people that think they do world music, but it just sounds like whatever loops they got. And it's just kind of not really well thought of. But you definitely seem to have this authentic feeling for world music, Middle Eastern music. So that might be the way to go in with a lot of libraries, because I don't know if a lot of libraries have a lot of that. They'll probably have a lot of hip hop and maybe pop or rock or something like that. Maybe not so much rock, but world music, not a lot of producers can throw that stuff out there. So this seems like a really good lane for you to get into. Maybe even putting together a whole album full of cool Middle Eastern tracks like this. That might be a great way for you to get in. You know, again, there's not going to be every single TV show needing Middle Eastern world music, but definitely there's enough out there that will need something like this. The vocal thing, I probably would take that out. If you're going to do vocals, I'd probably want to hear more of a guy singing a cool melodic movement or something like that. But the kind of whispering, creepy thing, it's probably not going to be appropriate for whatever scene that somebody wants to put this track in there. So I probably would strip those kind of vocals out. And if you want to throw vocals in, make it a guy who kind of sounds like he's singing some really beautiful melody kind of off in the distance with a lot of reverb around him, and something like that would be a little bit better. But I don't think the sort of the creepy vocals really work for this, for a TV film. If you want to just throw this out for the world, which you obviously have here on your YouTube channel, that's going to be something that would be your choice as an artist. Wow, that took a twist that I did not expect. So this is a rock track or a metal track. Man, unique factors through the roof here. I have never heard anything like this. You're blowing my mind right now. Really cool. The one thing I would say, especially for TV film, you know, having that growl, that really scary male vocal growl come in between these beautiful melodies that this female vocalist is doing, it's really a little too schizophrenic for TV film. For an artist track or this is a really dope track. So obviously your fans probably are going to like this kind of thing. But a music supervisor is not a fan, right? They need music that fits a specific need for a specific show. And when you have this beautiful inspirational melody and guitars and music going on, and then it goes into this huge growl, really aggressive growl, it's like it takes you away from that feeling a little too quickly. And so for a scene, I don't know. I mean, they're going to have, in order to use this track, they have to have a scene that starts out very inspirational, and then for like a couple of seconds, it gets really mean and dark and whatever. So it's possible, but more than likely, they're going to say, you know, strip those vocals out, that growl out, and keep this more upbeat, inspirational, and just beautiful how it's working. Mix-wise, drums are way loud. Your kick and snare are just, they're coming through the mix a little too loud. We need more guitars and bass to come up a little bit more. So I would just raise those things up. And also your overall mix is a little super compressed, a little over compressed. So you might want to ease back on those settings a little bit. Let your track breathe a little bit more. Yeah, your guitar, man, I love this stuff, though. I like your guys' tracks. But that guitar needs more low end. It's like, it's so high. Like, all the frequencies are so high up there, so they don't feel serious to me, right? Like, that distortion guitar has got to have that low growl. Dun, 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 dun. You know, you got to really pump in and punch people right in the gut with this kind of stuff. So whatever your settings are with your EQs, I would be a little bit more lenient with those low-end frequencies. Let those breathe a little bit more and come through. Really cool. Unique factor. I think you guys take the cake today for sure. Marcus. All right. You're welcome for the dope content. I'm glad you're digging it, man. Solar eclipse. Let's see.
And the fingers on the beat.
Dope track, man. Really cool, unique, interesting sounds. I like their creativity and the originality of this. It's a little slow, and the one thing that I tell all of my students is upbeat or at least mid-tempo tracks typically get the most placement. Slow, dreary, kind of chill, laid-back tracks. Not a lot of that stuff going on TV. In fact, just turn on the TV and listen. You'll hear most of it is upbeat, up-tempo. The only exception would be, if it's like a background cue for, like a drama scene or something like that. But typically for all the stuff you're hearing on reality shows, everything, commercials, advertisements, promos, almost everything going on TV, it's like high energy. It's like, get people excited, watch my TV show, buy my product, whatever. So I would caution against staying in this sort of slow lane too much, right? I'm telling you this from experience. I produced 12 tracks a couple years ago, spent money on a vocalist coming in, spent probably 2 months, 3 months putting these things together, shopped it around, and everybody said, cool tracks, but we have no place for that. It's slow, right? I made slow dubstep vocal music, and just they're like, man, we don't need that, so thanks, but nah, we're cool. So that was basically one of my lessons learned. Like, wow, well, that's just because I want to do it doesn't mean it's what this industry wants. So I would say that you've got this really cool original sound, and how you're producing this stuff, definitely you're in your own lane, which is great. But probably stay at a mid-tempo or up-tempo stuff. Just what I would say to just give you the best chances of getting some placement. Yeah, and probably having a thing like this with just 808 is way too minimal. This would be better for like a vocalist to come on top. Again, if this is kind of how you want to produce and this is your style, you probably should partner up with a vocalist, a rapper or a singer, and get them to kind of make this track move forward a little bit more. Because when you just have this 808 thing, which is cool, you can't really just have it by itself. It's way too minimal. There's not enough going on there. And it feels like it's like an instrumental track that should have a vocalist on it. So it feels a little incomplete as it is now. All right, Paul, you got a direct link, and you follow the directions, so you get a review.
Is that the new iPhone?
Yeah, got it on T-Mobile. Fastest iPhone deserves America's fastest LTE network.
How about no ads? There you go. Promo all over the place, man. Like, this is like MTV would use this for any promo they throw on there. This kind of cool, chill sound, definitely lots of potential for something like this. Just the way that it sounds as is right now. But again, same thing as said in the last producer. The low, slow down tempo stuff, just not a huge market in this TV film world. Probably the mid tempo, up tempo stuff is really where you're going to see more of your placements happening. Probably bring that bass up a little bit. It feels a little small. So again, this one kind of feels a little like loopy, a little repetitive, so we might need to change things up a little bit more. Or go find a great vocalist and throw them on this thing. This could be a great song that you could send to a library, but as is right now, it feels incomplete. It kind of just feels like a under track that should have a vocalist on top of it. If you want to keep it just instrumental, you need to throw a lot more on top. Other instruments, new elements, or maybe you want to do some stuttered vocals, or you gotta do some cool, ahs and ooh vocals or something like that. You can do that kind of a thing, but it needs something else to kind of move this forward because it feels very stagnant. We're not really moving forward enough with this one. Because look, no matter where I go in your track, we're still hearing that same progression. And when I can do that and just kind of go through your track and I hear the same progression, I know you have some vocal things here and there, and that's good. You should keep doing that. But when I kind of hear the same thing more or less happening throughout the entire track, it is obviously a copy and paste track, and that is just not enough for the TV film world. It's definitely going to work if you have a vocalist on top, but for this world, we have to be more composers and not so much beat makers, if that makes sense. We have to think about our tracks as if they are standalone pieces of art that, knocking my microphone here, that doesn't need to have a vocalist to make it feel complete. Like the music itself should be doing the speaking for itself. So hopefully that makes sense. Akil Beats. Let's see what you got here, man.
Akil beats Denver. Still got it.
So first thing is taking too long to get to the beat, man. We are, I don't know how many seconds is it. Say, give me seconds on here. I don't know, maybe not. But already I'm kind of like, come on, let's get to it. So just in the same way that the public, they have no attention span. They don't have any patience to kind of wait for the track to get into it. You got to hit us with this music right away. Let's see where your music comes in, and I'll show you where you probably should start your track. Like I would start it right here. You got this cool bass, dum 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 bam, ba bum, and that's where it should start. All of this not necessary for the TV film world. Because remember, this is a lesson for all of us to learn. This is how it works. This is how you're going to get a placement, okay? So a guy who's in charge of putting the music behind a reality TV show, sometimes it's a music supervisor, other times it's just the guy who does the video editing, and he's given the license to be like, hey, you put the music in, whatever you feel is good. He or she has a specific sound. They're looking for it. They want to find it. They're hitting the down arrow. They have their music library list next to them with 100 tracks or whatever they're listening to, and they're hitting the down arrow. And if your track takes 20 seconds to get to the beef of it, you're getting skipped over because they can't even hear if your track is going to be what they want. So a lot of times they'll just hit down, 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 down. And if your track is not catching them right away, they might not even give your track a 3 or 5 second listen. And that's typically all they're going to do. I worked in a TV network years ago, and I worked alongside an editor who did this. And that's why I know that, because that's what he was doing, and that's what almost all the editors were doing when I would sit in on their sessions, is they would just kind of go through and go, okay, I need something, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of them don't care who they're choosing or who the composer is. They're just listening to the music. They're like, okay, yeah, that's it. And they give 3 seconds, and if it works, they go grab it. And if it doesn't work, they just move on. So you got to get their attention very quickly. I would swap out some of those drums, the snare and the crash cymbal. They feel very fake to me, so I probably would update those. I like the vibe of the horn, though. That's really cool and unique, and that obviously is a real horn sample. That doesn't sound like a MIDI fake thing you did there, so however you treated that was really good. I do hear a little bit of clipping and a little bit of distortion, so you might need to back off a little bit on your overall volume for the track, because it's a little bit buzzing from the distortion. Yeah, those drums, I'd axe those drums, man. I'd try something a little bit different. Those sound like a drum machine, really, just like a fake drum machine. And if you have real sounding drums and everything else, like this bass kind of has a real sound to it, you got to have drums that have more of a real feel to them as well. So I would recommend updating those. I always tell all my students, look at splice.com. I know that, as producers, musicians, we don't always have a lot of money to just go update things. Splice is $8 a month. They give you 100 downloads a month. That's the lowest option they have. So with 100 downloads, you can get a whole new drum set. You can get snares. You can get toms, hats, all that kind of stuff. So I would definitely look into upgrading your drums. That seems to be the biggest thing here that's bothering me. And then obviously getting right to the track in the beginning. Omni Circus. All right, man. You got a direct link, so you got a direct listen. Let's see. I'm going to go with your featured song. Hopefully this is the one you want, because this is the only one that's directly on there. Okay, so now a beautiful track. It is slow. It's a little bit melancholy, and it's kind of a little dragging, right? And so again, for the TV film world, mid-tempo, up-tempo is probably where you want to start with if you're brand new to the licensing world. I'm not sure if you are or not. This is a beautiful song, but again, it's probably not one of those things that you're gonna kick open a door with a music library. But man, really cool vocals. It's interesting. It's unique. It has this very just very unique quality that you don't hear a lot. So I think you've got that going for you for sure. Yeah, this is definitely more like film sort of esque. So this would be something that I could definitely see getting placed in a movie or something like that. But my strategy when it comes to how I'm able to do this full time is you got to go for TV. TV is where the passive income is. It's where most of the placements happen. It's where you can get a placement today and get paid for 5 years or 10 or 20 years if it goes into syndication. Film, you know, here and there, you might find an opportunity for something like this, but maybe one movie will take the song or two movies. So don't get me wrong, that can land in some pretty big money, but like if it's a full-time income, I tend to not want to hope that I get a couple of big placements. I want a lot of small placements. That's kind of where my strategy goes. So, but you know, if this is sort of your artist's music and this is what you're releasing to the world, this could definitely get placed in a movie. Like I could definitely hear this in an indie film. Many movies could obviously use something like this. It's just that you're probably not going to get obviously any reality shows that'll want something like this, or a news program, or a promo, or an advertisement, or a commercial that's playing all you know over and over again. Because commercials, all these kind of TV spots, they want to inspire and motivate and get you to do something, to buy something, to watch something. So that would just be my overall view on the strategy for this industry. But really cool stuff there, and a great vocalist you got. DJR360. Okay, you're thankful for the content. You got some tracks placed in some libraries, but you have to hook that first one. So cool, right on, man. Hey, it's a journey, all right? It's like I said, it's not a marathon, or it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. So don't think just because you got a track in there and you haven't gotten a placement in a month or two, it's all over for you. It takes a while. Just be consistent. That's the key to this thing. Film trailer queue. Okay. So let's see what you got here, man. The new strings you just threw on there, they feel a little off to me. They just don't feel real enough, so I probably would swap those out. I know you're saying you don't have contact or whatever, but definitely look into maybe updating whatever strings that you're using and try some other things. The cinematic orchestral world is very highly competitive, and if you're going to go into that world, it's almost like you got to kind of invest in those samples. You know, Spitfire Audio, Hans Zimmer strings, all the contact libraries for the strings and orchestral stuff. It's kind of where all the professionals are going and where they are, if they don't actually go hire an orchestra to actually record what they've composed. But if you're going to be doing a home studio thing, you really can't cut corners in this side of it because, man, like it's so competitive, and the tracks that you're going up against really are that high quality. So unfortunately, that's where that side of the business is. That's why in some of the videos I've done on my channel, I say if you're going to go do trailer music, probably stay with trailer music. Really specialize in that. Get really good at that thing because it's a highly specialized side of the business, and it requires a great understanding of orchestration, of composing, and you're going to have all those high quality samples to go along with it. So I hear two things that are bothering me. The dun 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 dun. It's very repetitive. It's not really moving anywhere. I feel like we're just kind of stuck there. Dun 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 dun. Three things actually that bother me. That's the first one. Number two is the lead you have, that synth lead. It's conflicting like musically, melodically with those strings. So I feel like there's some sort of dissonance happening that's really rubbing me the wrong way. And the third thing was, hold on, I had a third. Well, just the fact that that lead doesn't really fit in this track. I guess that's the third thing. I feel like it would be probably better to stay with the orchestral thing you were doing. Or if you're going to go kind of doing this hybrid where you mix up a little bit of electronic music and orchestra, not this sound. This sound just doesn't work for it. I think it should be a lower growling kind of a sound because your strings, remember, are high up here. Dun, 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 dun. But this growl is up here with it. So it's like you hear all this like conflicting things happening in the same frequency range. One thing with producing and composing, you want to give each instrument or each section its own space. So the strings are kind of up here, mid and up here. So if you have a low growl or something electronic, you probably want to keep it in a lower range. Excuse me, so that you give every instrument its space. Yeah, now that guitar lead, I think that's the one you put in there, pitchy. It's very pitchy. It's kind of not really matching up with the strings, and so I hear all these like kind of pitch bends and happening, and it's not working in a way that's very pleasing to the ear. So be very careful with guitar leads, like actual guitars that you plug in and record, because with MIDI you can go and fix things, right? Normally it's always going to be in the actual key you want it, but even if you screw something up or something's bending a little bit, you can go and fix that with MIDI. But with a guitar, very hard to adjust audio, so you really got to record that perfectly. One thing that I do, this is kind of a little tip I'll give you from my producing and mixing and mastering course. I'll actually record guitars without any distortion or any effects on them, because I want to make sure that just clean with nothing on them, they're in tune and on time, right? You got to make sure that your guitars are sounding good without all the sparkles and shiny stuff on them. Then once you make sure that it's recorded properly, then you can add your distortion. Yeah, I hear, there's something there that could be big, but right now, because everything's up in the high frequency, it's like noisy, right? There's just a lead guitar, there's lead strings, there's all this stuff, and they're all competing for the foreground. This is something you got to learn about producing, is that typically if you have a lead, it should be the focus, the center of it, and everything else should be supporting that lead, right? You shouldn't have two conflicting characters or two leads back and forth, always like, hey, what do I listen to? The lead or the guitar or the strings? What do I listen to? It's way too much information happening. If you're gonna have two leads, typically what you want to do is do a call and response. Strings do dun 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 dun, and then a guitar can come in. So it's a call and response, so they're happening one at a time, but they're not happening at the same time. And right now, everything is just jam-packed into one place. So it's just something to think about as you revise that one. And try composing that one. Let's see, Spodazzo. All right, I don't know if I got that one. Grace and peace to you. How are things? Things are great. Have a nice day. Thank you. You too. Okay, epic drums, man. Drums sound great. Wasn't really feeling these samples in the beginning. I have a video on my channel called The #1 Reason Why Your Tracks Aren't As Good As They Should Be. Please go watch that video because I talk about why using poor samples is probably the reason why you're going to get passed over in this business. And it sucks because I can tell you got the talent, but you might be just using the wrong sounds. And those sounds definitely aren't doing it for you. Drums are, though. The drums are great. Other thing I was going to say is if you're going to have this cool crescendo here, which I like how you kind of built this up into this drum beat, probably need to build that up a little bit more so it feels more like a crescendo, more like a big payoff when the drums come in. Right? Because it just happens and then boom, now we got the drums. You could have a swell and you could have a drum fill or something. You could have a pitch bending thing. You got to really build us up, amp us up like, hey, we're about to go to the beat, and then land us with this really cool drum beat you got going on here. That's part of the dynamics of this industry that you really got to get used to. Little bit slow, little draggy. It's cool, like I like it, but again, you know, these kind of tracks aren't going to get a lot of shine. They're going to get a lot of use in the TV film world. Focus on mid-tempo, up-tempo stuff. Also, this does still kind of feel like it's meant for a vocalist to be on top of. It doesn't feel like it stands alone. So I would definitely think about doing that where you add some more instruments to it, or maybe you go bring a vocalist and throw it on top here because it doesn't feel complete. That lead, yeah, I mean, I've talked about the samples. Definitely, I'd swap out a lot of these samples. The chords, the lead thing, yeah, just not doing it for me. Also, it sounds like you're repeating a lot of the same parts. Like you took this chorus and kind of copied and pasted it. If you haven't watched this entire video, that's a note I've been giving to other people that you got to have every part unique, and you can't just be using the same part over and over again. Definitely, you gotta, you know, add a new lead for the next chorus. You gotta put a string section in there. You gotta try something else, make the drums a little bit more interesting. I don't know. You gotta try out a couple of things to make sure that every chorus is unique, every verse is unique from the one before that, and give that music editor or that supervisor all those options to place your track. All right, Devaris Anderson. Let's check it out. I like your avatar here. That's awesome. Okay, cool. Reggae is not one of those really common genres, so you can definitely set yourself apart easily with this genre. However, we need to still add a little bit more. Like I felt like we were kind of repeating the same thing over and over again. So at this point, there should be maybe a new shaker or tambourine or something can come in to kind of like add a little bit more interest to it. Also, if you're gonna do reggae, definitely get into making like pop style reggae tracks. Okay, so this is more of like a traditional reggae track, which is cool, and there will be uses for that. But if you want like a lot of placements and a lot of stuff happening, check out what's going on in top 40 when it comes to like an artist like, I don't know, I know probably Sean Kingston did some of it. I don't know, there's probably a lot of artists that have done, they've kind of adapted reggae into a EDM pop format. So if you can do that, you're looking at a lot of stuff happening, because not only do you have the reggae appeal, so you can go into any sort of scene that maybe they're on an island somewhere and they need that kind of reggae feeling, but also just having a modern, fresh pop sound with the reggae thing puts you in a bigger category, right? Reality TV shows, commercials, promos, that kind of thing. So you just sort of be expanding your reach with this kind of sound, and also you can give them every library will want alt mixes. So one of the things you can do is you can create separate mixes for them. One can be just more pop focused, so you kind of take away some of the reggae instruments, and the other one can be more reggae focused, so you take away some of the pop instruments. So you can actually give a library 2 different versions of this song depending on what instruments you mute, which ones you solo out, and now you've got 2 different complete audiences that they can market to for their clients. One thing I would say, maybe consider upgrading some of the bass and piano sounds you're using right now, especially the piano. The piano sounds very just fake. It doesn't sound like a real piano. So maybe I tried something a little bit different. Just that sample, whatever it is, it doesn't feel right. Maybe not fake, because I know that you're going to be using an electric piano, but I would try something else. Maybe more of a Rhodes kind of a style piano, or I don't know, something a little sharper. That one just feels a little soft and just kind of it's there, but it's not really doing what I want it to do. The bass is okay. You know, maybe you can try to look, if you haven't looked at Trillion. Trillion is an amazing plugin that gets you sounds that, like, I have a bass guitar here back here, and I used to plug in a bass and record my bass tracks until I had Trillion, and now I don't ever plug in the bass because Trillion sounds better than anything I can do, and I can make perfect, you know, recordings with it because it's MIDI, so I can adjust everything. So look into Trillion. It's not cheap, but you know, if you really want to do this, getting the right instruments and the right tools is where you want to go. So cool stuff, man. And last one on this page, Brad. Brad, you've been around for a while. I remember you from months and months ago. So let's see what you got here.
Abounding constellation shown.
Okay, same thing. There's a long intro here. So for the TV film world, I would just start it right around. I probably would just start it right there at 15 seconds. Just boom. That's where I would just start it.
Luminous, we're not alone. Traverse a path when the night is dim. We wouldn't sleep in the state we're in. Tried and took a fall, tired and emotional. We don't know which way is up. What may be will be. With our friends and enemies, take from us this immense cup. Somewhere further down the stream, someone from a dream. Nothing's as it seems. Heart can't come forth here and now.
Damn, Brad, like, your voice is ridiculous, man. This is like straight up, this should be on the radio right now. Like, this is exactly the sound that people are really digging right now. So you got a lot of potential with this sound with libraries. I mean, this is straight up the oh, what is the name of that band? They got huge doing this. You know who it is, and you're gonna hate me because I can't think of them right now, but yeah, whatever. Lots of bands have this sound. This is a really, really big sound right now. So, and you will definitely get attention with this kind of music for sure. Keeping your vocals on there. You have a great voice. Yeah, definitely keep your vocals together on here and throw this at libraries if you want to. Now, the thing is, if you haven't, noticed this yet, libraries a lot of times will want you to be a 100% transfer of master rights, recording rights, copyrights, all that kind of stuff. So it's literally a buyout. It's essentially a work for hire, and they allow you to keep 100% of your writer's share. They should, right? Unless you co-wrote this with somebody else. But that's one of those things where you got to be, where are your priorities? Because you have this obviously on your YouTube channel. You've spent time and money putting out a video for it. You want people to enjoy that. So if you send it to a library and they want to exclusively license it, they're going to probably ask you to take it down off of YouTube, because they don't want somebody else to go just grab it for free and put it in their show. They want it to be like, no, we are the only place that you can get Brad Peterson's music, right? That's what they want. So that's something to consider. If you don't want to do that, and you're kind of like, I want to do my artist thing, and I think, man, you got a lot to offer the world with your creative music, so I probably wouldn't. Maybe you want to think about creating separate music apart from this stuff, but it's still the same style, but really tailor it for the TV film world, and just know you're not going to be shooting a music video for it. You're not going to be trying to get fans with it. It's literally to just get TV placement. So when you craft your lyrics, maybe you want to keep them general. So if it's like falling in love or losing love or overcoming adversity or whatever it is, you kind of want to keep these sort of bigger themes that can be played for many different sorts of TV shows. But you create music that you know is going to be transferred over to a music library that your fans aren't going to hear, that the world's really not going to be exposed to, other than if it gets placed in a TV show. Now, when it gets placed in a TV show, you can definitely go and turn around to all your fans and your followers and say, hey guys, check it out. I got a song placed on blah, 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 blah. So it obviously is going to add to your credibility, and people are going to be excited for you, and you can still show that off. But obviously this is going to be a separate catalog apart from the original music you're doing for your fans, And just a note too, man, I love your music. It's just really cool. Staying with themes that are a little bit more optimistic, upbeat will probably get you more placements. And having some heartbreak ones or some loss of love definitely can work as well. But I would just say that trying to stick with more like feeling good or moving on or something like that, like you'll probably have a lot more commercial clients, like advertising clients, that will want to use especially the sound with or without your vocals. Most of the time they're going to want your vocals though, because you have some great sounding vocals. All right, so let's do Outdo Music Group. Here you go.
Yeah. I'ma go give me some commas. Niggas hating, they don't like it. Come get your bitch, but she all on me. I might keep it if I like her. Chase some money like it's Adam. Pull up on you, go on slide. Swear to God, I ain't ducking shit. Never ever will I trust a bitch.
Dope song. Gotta watch the language though. If this is gonna be for TV film, okay, I'm gonna tell you that they're either gonna say no, you either gotta strip out all the bad words, or you have to sort of like reverse them or make them sound different. What I would do is probably rewrite it, right? Just put other words there so that you don't have the cuss words, all that kind of stuff, because this is TV, right? I mean, TV, they can't really cuss. Their FCC won't let them do that unless there's like certain time of the night and certain channels and that kind of thing. So the more that you have profanity in your tracks, the fewer options you give them. And most libraries are not even going to accept it. They're just going to go, not really, no thanks. Once in a while, maybe they'll go for something like that. But just so you know, if you want to start submitting your tracks to libraries, you got to get rid of the bad words. Like, you just can't have any cuss words, nothing like that. You're just going to get rejected. So just, that's how it works.
And I got rose gold, everything. Big body, I need 2 lanes. I ain't tripping, homie, do your thing. Niggas hating, they don't like it. And I got rose gold, everything. Niggas clown, boy, I'm Bruce Wayne. No lie, like I'm 2 Chainz. Niggas hating, they don't like it. I might go hit me a lick. I might go flip me a brick. I might pull up in that black thing and slag on your bitch. I can't be fucking with fuck niggas.
Now, here's the thing. Aside from the cuss words and all that kind of stuff, so the lyrical content, when it comes to TV film, you still, even as a rapper, need to be focused on like a specific environment or a scene or some sort of a thing that's happening. So this track, you're up in yourself. You're bigging up yourself, right? You're just pumping yourself up. You're saying you're dope, you're awesome. There's not that many scenes in TV that are going to actually want something like that. I mean, yes, there might be a couple here and there where somebody's riding a dope car or something like that, and they want to play this kind of in the background or whatever. But you'll probably open up yourself to more placements if you kind of focus more on themes, like you lost a girl, or you're trying to get a girl, or I don't know, you faced adversity and you're trying to get through something, right? So I would say like you're going to be limiting yourself. Especially in the hip hop world, if you're writing tracks, like, because this is obviously meant for the radio, right? This is meant for the public. This is meant for your fans, and it's a dope track, and I actually really like the sound of it. But this kind of a thing doesn't necessarily translate very well into the TV film world. You'd have to kind of rethink how you're writing your lyrics. Obviously, you got to clean them up a little bit, and then you want to keep your lyrical content towards something that can be used for many different scenes, right? You don't want to be so focused on you yourself as an artist getting onto the TV. So again, I say this in my master course. It's the thing that I repeat the most, is that, you know, this is a service industry. So that's why this business is not for all producers and all artists, because a lot of artists and producers, they want to write about themselves, about their experiences, about them. Well, it's not really about you in this business. It's actually really about the TV show or the commercial or the promo. Somebody who needs music for their program, they need the music. And so you need to use your music, your talent, your vocal skills, your verbal skills, your producing skills to serve their needs. And guess what? The better you serve their needs, the more often you serve their needs, the more money shows up in your bank account. And that's really the secret of this business. It's not really a secret at all. So it's something to consider, that if you're going to go in this route, you got to kind of rethink how you produce music. It has to serve a different sort of need. And before we go on to my next page, let me just change something here real quick. All right, guys, so my voice is getting a little bit weak right now, so I just grabbed a new coffee and a little bit more water. So we're going to get through maybe 10 more of these, maybe a little bit more. We'll see. I'll go as long as I can, but I can definitely feel my throat kind of giving out on me, so let's move on forward. But I'll do a second live stream, and we'll do the rest of these maybe in a couple days or something like that, once I can let my voice recover a little bit. All right, Ricardo.
Aparenta ser un espejismo, pero eres real, como el bien y el mal, como la luz y la oscuridad, una mentira y mi propia verdad. Dándole forma a lo que siento, tallando un sentimiento. Le pedí al viento que grite tu nombre hasta quedarse sin aliento. Detrás del firmamento sigo cayendo lento. ¿Y qué importa ese tormento si todo se desvanece con el tiempo? Que fue un cuento sin trama, que se apagó la llama. No, todo es mentira, tú nunca sentiste nada. Lo sé por tu mirada, en el fondo me cala, la gravedad me jala, el vértigo apuñala.
Dope sound, man. I'm not in the Spanish market, so it's not something that I have a lot of expertise in. Obviously, I'm not fluent in Spanish, so I can't understand what your lyrics are about on this one. But your sound is in, man. You've got a great backing track behind you. The instrumental sounds great. Your vocals sound awesome. It's clean. Everything's well produced. I wouldn't change a thing with this. So, again, kind of what I said to another subscriber, though, that I reviewed, is if you're going to go into TV film licensing, you might want to think about creating a separate catalog that's different from the stuff that you're putting out here. Like you did this music video and you putting this together. This is probably a very personal song. This is something you want to give to your fans and all that kind of thing. And when it goes to TV film, it's a completely different ball game. It's not for your fans. It's not really necessarily about you or your story. It's going to be about serving their needs. What do they need? What kind of, how can you craft your vocals or your tracks or your lyrics so that they get the most amount of placements, right? So it's not necessarily about telling your story, but about maybe telling somebody else's story. So it's just a different kind of a mind frame. Some producers are great at it. They can just completely turn off their sort of like personal artist voice for a while and then go create TV film music. Other artists have a really hard time with it. It's really hard just for them to do that because they've been doing things this way for so long. So, it's just something to consider. And I think for most artists, it's probably the way to go if you want to do TV film music licensing. And this is for all artists in this business. No matter what you're doing, you should be adding TV film music licensing as a plan B, right? I don't care if you're trying to get a record label, you're trying to go indie, you're trying to go on tour, you want to go blow up virally online, whatever your strategy is, TV film should be there with it, no matter what you're doing, because if your plan A doesn't work out and you don't blow up big and you don't go on tour, you don't get your record label and things like that don't happen for you, you've at least got another source of income that prevents you from having to go get maybe a day job or go work for somebody you don't really like. And it can keep you still producing original music that you want to produce. Even if you're not even making so much money at it, this side of the business can sort of funnel into that side to keep you relevant and to keep you away from a day job and all that kind of stuff. So I don't care who you are, what kind of music you're making, adding TV film music licensing just to your arsenal, even if it's just a plan B, is a very solid, strong, smart choice, in my opinion.
La culpa me señala, mi alma es como un árbol al que tu recuerdo tala y lo tengo que olvidar. No sé si el desconsuelo o el estar cada vez más cerca del suelo es lo que me hace temblar. El aire fue tu lienzo, contemplo el cielo y pienso. Sé y que ella no será, ella no volverá, lo tienes que entender. Me miro en el espejo y yo no lo puedo creer. Me quiero convencer, volé tan alto que aún no acabo de caer. Yeah.
Sounds great, man. Again, I can't understand it, but just sonically, it's there, man. You got a great sound, and I think it's very smooth. It can definitely find some homes and some libraries for sure, man. So keep that up. Cooler beats, right on, man. Let's see what you got here.
Novocaine, right?
Mix is a little bit quiet. I'd bump it up a little bit. Yeah, so this is a common thing that I'm hearing, and I kind of expected this to happen, that a lot of you guys, and especially you, Cooler Beats, you're a beat producer, right? And you're obviously, I can see you're licensing these so rappers can come and grab this and all that kind of stuff. So this is necessarily, you produce this for a rapper, right? You kind of produced it minimally. It's an instrumental track, but you sort of left a lot of space in the lead area so that a vocalist can come in, put his vocals on it, and it's a full track. TV film world, you got to structure it differently. So you got to already have the vocalist or the rapper on the track, or you got to beef up your production so that the track can stand alone as a song. And it's not like just a minimal track that you could put vocals on top, if that makes sense. You got to have more leads, more things happening, and it can't just be like, well, some vocalists can put their rapper can put their vocals on here, and then it'll feel complete. It'll be incomplete for a music library, and they probably won't accept it as is for this. So it just requires a different mindset. That's all it is. Like, you obviously, it's funny because everybody in this side of the business producing beats for artists and all that kind of stuff, you guys are serving a marketplace. You're just serving a different one, right? You're serving the needs of rappers, people who need beats, people who need to put music underneath their vocals. So you've created a product right here, which is a backing track for a rapper. In the TV film world, it's a different audience. It's a different need. It's a different niche of the business. And so you have to start feeding and supplying what they need. The difference is, I see what you're doing here. You're offering a non-exclusive license for $50. And I don't know how many you sell. Maybe you sell a lot, and that's great. When you get placements on TV, there's a range. It can be hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, or it could be just pennies. It's a huge range. But on average, you're going to be getting, maybe 10 to 25 bucks every time that particular episode airs. So over and over, and that's on the low end typically. So this stuff can add up over and over again to the point where, if you sold this to one guy, you get that $150 check and that's it. If he goes and performs it, you're not getting any piece of that. You're not getting any sort of royalties off of any of that kind of stuff. So that's why the TV film world is so much more powerful, in my opinion, is because you can get that recurring long-term income if a track or a TV show gets aired over and over again. And then if it gets syndicated, meaning another network picks it up or another country starts airing it, which happens for a lot of the tracks that I've done for reality shows, that's that income that just keeps coming. And it's just like literally like a money tree. It's just printing money into your bank account. So I definitely would say, especially for you, because this seems to be where you've been focusing, start adding TV film to your focus as well. And you might see some great things happen for yourself. All right. Don't know how to pronounce that one, so I'm not going to. Sorry. I dig it. I need more music, though. It feels very rhythmically based. Just drums, percussion, that kind of thing. So we need some more music happening here. When you submit tracks to a library, they're going to ask you for alt mixes, meaning that like, hey, give us just the drums, right? We want all the musical elements stripped out of this one, but just give us the drums. So far, that's what this track sounds like. It actually sounds like the alt mix. It sounds like not the complete song. It just sounds like you stripped everything else and just threw the percussion in there. So that's the first thing I'm hearing is we probably need a little bit more musical stuff happening sooner. Start hearing some guitar and strings and stuff, but everything is very small and minimal, and so it feels like a very percussion based track. And if somebody's requesting that from you, then hey, serve them what they need. But if you're gonna approach a library with something like this, you probably want it to be like a fully produced song, not so like percussion based where it's like all percussion and the music is just kind of sprinkled here and there. You need to have that musical element, like, you know, whatever, piano, strings, guitar, whatever. It needs to be kind of front and center like it's a fully produced song. And we probably need to add a little bit more variation because this drum beat and this progression is just happening over and over again. Again, getting stuck in that kind of looping thing. So maybe switching up the beat here and there, maybe trying something where you strip down the drums to just the kick and the snare and you don't have all the percussion, or maybe you just drop out the kick and snare, only have the percussion. I mean, there's a million things you can do, but you don't want it to be copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, and have the whole thing just the same sort of vibe happening the entire time. And that's kind of what I'm hearing is a lot of loops and things just happening over and over again, and that won't push a scene forward in a TV show or whatever. So something just to keep in mind, thinking about yourself again, more as a producer, as a composer, not just as a beat maker, somebody who makes cool beats. You got to think about your track as if this was a complete, and this is a little long too, 3:55, probably cut it down to 3 minutes. But if this was a 3-minute long movie, am I providing sort of like get your attention, set the mood, build you up somewhere, have a huge chorus, bring you back down, tension, rise you back up to a last chorus? Like, I'm not getting that from this track right now. It just feels like it's just cruising along the whole time. But you want to give a library many, many different options so that a music supervisor or an editor can choose any part in that track and loop it if they need to, or just completely play the thing out. So just in my experience, the tracks that I have that have those dynamics and those changing parts get more placements. The ones that are just the same thing over and over again, yeah, I might get like a 5-second placement here and there, maybe 10 seconds. But what you'll find out is like when you get over a minute long on a TV show, they call it super usage. That's where your royalties like go up huge, like literally tenfold sometimes. So you need to create all of those options for them so that they literally put your track into a TV show for like a minute and a half or 2 minutes. The only way you're going to do that, you can't have loops. You can't have something that's looping over and over again. It'll get too repetitive for them. But cool vibe. I like the old school hip hop thing you got going there. It's really cool. Charlie, cool. You've been a subscriber for a while. You appreciate the knowledge. Right on, man. You've had about 50 placements. Cool, dude. Your daughter is going to go starting school and you're going to plan to make the full jump. Cool. Right on, man. Private SoundCloud. Right on. So glad that you've gotten a few placements. That it might not seem like a lot to you, but that is huge. I can tell you that I remember when I first got my first couple of placements, it was just like it's almost like I had achieved the dream already. It was like, I can't believe that my music is actually on TV. It's actually such a special, cool feeling, man. So I'm glad that you've seen some success. I know that you want to get a lot more out there and you want to keep building it up, but at least you've seen for yourself it is possible, and you know how much work and how much patience it takes to really do well at this. So, but I'm glad to hear it, man. The more success stories that I hear from my students and subscribers, the better and more inspired I am that, you know, this stuff really does work. I know that I get that question probably more than anything else. Does this really work? Is it really going to work out? You know, like if you're not going to be persistent and patient, no, it isn't. But, you know, I'm glad that you've seen at least some success and you're about ready to go in and go full time and get it going, man. So let's see what you got here. this is right up my alley, man. This is exactly the kind of music that I've produced in my past and in bands and stuff like that. So I dig this stuff. And I've done a lot of producing where, I don't know if you know, probably the band I Prevail, but they put out an album this year? I can't remember now. It might have been last year. I think the end of last year. And I actually got hired to come on and do some of the synth programming for some of their tracks, but they got music just like this, man. So this is like, I love this stuff. So this is cool. Dope. Vocals really work well. I like that you have these kind of broad sort of phrases that you can throw in there. This would definitely work for, like, you know, UFC stuff, sports stuff, race car stuff. I mean, there's a lot of just any testosterone-based aggression kind of programming, which is a lot on TV. You can do that. Mix-wise, I would say we need a little bit more low end. I'm not hearing much of your bass guitar at all. Vocals like that, I probably wouldn't do something like that. If you're going to do like an aggressive song like this, I'd probably do less singing and more just shouting. You know, kind of the other ones that you have that are shouting, they just feel like they fit better with a track like that. So I would probably stay away from the singing, kind of quieter parts that you did like that, and do like haze and shouts and, you know, whatever you want to do, but make it just really intense and really aggressive. I think it matches here. But yeah, I'm not hearing much of the low end with the bass. Guitars sound great, drums sound great, but I need more of that low bass, you know, something like that. So whatever you have going on in the low end right there, just be a little bit more aggressive with that bass. But man, really cool. You got a lot of changes happening, like things are always evolving. You got different parts, there's a lot of options. So I can tell, it's funny listening to this, I can tell you've been doing this for a while and you've been in the TV film business for a while, because it takes a certain kind of producer to understand like what you're doing here with this track and why this is so good for TV film. So a bright, promising future ahead of you for you, man. If you can crank out this kind of stuff. And you got that definite punch ending and you got the vocals, man. So you obviously know what you're doing here in this business. So you're going to do some great things, man. So keep up the productivity, keep cranking out tracks like this. The one thing I would also recommend is to spread out a little bit of maybe some of your appeal, is not just do straight up rock tracks like this, but also start throwing on some synthesizers, some EDM synthesizers, maybe some dubstep growls. Get a little bit into the hybrid world, and you might find that you can open up new doors with new libraries that way, not just being a straight up rock producer, because even though this is hard to find, this kind of high quality rock music, there are a lot of guys out there that do it, and so you might not find yourself like getting into certain libraries just because they already got one or two guys that already perform this or get this genre done for them. So if you can start adding some, you know, or EDM, dubstep, synthy kind of things with it, you might start opening up some different avenues, or orchestral stuff, right? That kind of like hybrid stuff. Just a thought for you. Chris, all right. Eye of the Storm. Let's see what you got.
How's everybody doing? When you're near me, I lose control and it feels like I'm falling again. Down a spiral staircase to your soul, and I'm begging you let me in. Every time I fall into your eyes, I'm home again. Tell me, I need to know if you feel it. Do you feel it too? I can see as far as I can see. I see it in your eyes. I see it in your eyes. What it means, as far as I can see, the way it seems to be.
So your mix is cool. I like the sound. Like, you guys got a really polished sound here. So I think you guys got that going for you. If you're thinking again about TV film licensing, though, the lyrics, typically for aggressive rock music like this, you kind of want to keep them more think testosterone just overdrive. This one kind of has some thoughtfulness in your lyrics and kind of some self-reflection and that kind of thing. And it doesn't normally play well on TV for this kind of music. Typically, if they want like a reflective, self-reflective kind of a thing or thoughtful music, they're going to go with something less aggressive sounding. So for your fans and for your audience, I'm sure that this is awesome. And this is the kind of like rock music that I was into, was more, you know, I like some of that just crazy, just like jungle crazy testosterone rock music, aggressive, ridiculous music. I like that. But I did also love the sort of like, you know, beautiful lyrics, beautiful melodies on top of kind of rough around the edges rock music. So for the pop world, for artists, this kind of thing works. TV film world, you probably want to, if you're going to do rock music, keep it like aggressive, keep it, you know, think UFC, think about like a big race, a car race, a NASCAR race happening, something like that, right? So just think testosterone and aggression. That's probably the best bet for you guys. This kind of thing, it's just, there's such a small need for maybe something like this in TV, at least from what I've seen.
Means everything to me, as long as I can see things for real. Show me.
Like this riff right here, that's TV all over the place. It's upbeat, it feels good, we're rocking, right? When the chorus comes in and it gets a little bit more dramatic, that's when it kind of loses a little bit of its TV appeal. So just my 2 cents on that. You guys can decide, you know, if you want to create separate tracks that are just more in this sort of, even this verse, I mean, that's cool. That's like race car background music all over the place, right? Or promo music or anything like that. So you guys could definitely find yourself in some really great situations doing that. But the lyrics, that's the one thing, and the melodies and how you guys are crafting that kind of stuff, that has to really fit the music. All right, Reed. Latest work, unreleased. Awesome, man. You followed the directions, so you do get some feedback. Love it, man. This is really, really cool. I have some notes just for these sound effects, though. They kind of crap out a little too early. Like, they need to bleed out a little bit more. Like, maybe with more reverb, or maybe just let them fade. How that kind of just... and they're done. Maybe throw some reverb on those suckers, or try to get them to last a little bit longer so there's more space around them, because it felt a little awkward that they just die out and then you now have this piano. Vocals are awesome. Hold on to this vocalist with both hands. Like, it's beautiful voice, wonderful voice, modern, current sounding voice. It sounds great. Fire, man. Absolute fire. This thing would get tons and tons of play in a library. So I'm assuming you can crank this stuff out. I don't know how long this took you to do, and I know this is probably a huge task that you were, working with this vocalist and putting it all together. But this sound right now is huge. People love this. It's getting played all over the place on TV, on commercials and promos. You can even kind of dip into some of the theme song stuff with a track like this. So it sounds huge, man. I really don't have many notes for you. It just is big and it makes me feel good. It's an underrated sort of quality that people don't always think about when they're producing tracks, but music should make you feel good, right? I mean, it can make you feel certain ways. Like, you can feel sad because it's making you feel a certain emotion or whatever, but either way, there should be a pure feeling that's coming from it, and I'm getting that pure feeling all over the place with this one, so props to you. dynamics here. You're kind of bringing us down to a more subdued place. Perfect. You can partner with this vocalist. I don't know if are you Reed Carr. I'm assuming you're a male, so I don't think this is you. If it is you, I apologize, but I'm assuming you're working with a female vocalist here. And if you can partner with her, I don't know if you wrote the lyrics or she wrote the lyrics or whatever, how that process works. Typically what you're going to do is you're going to split your royalties 50-50. If she's coming in and knocking out some awesome vocals on your track, you want to split those 50-50. I always say be fair with people. If they're contributing to your track and it's making it way better, give them what they're due. And I think vocals and instrumental should be split 50-50. That's just my perspective. But if you're writing the lyrics and the vocals, you know, maybe you can pay her to do a sort of, you know, day hire thing where, like, I mean, that's kind of what I did with a lot of the vocalists that I worked with, because I write vocals and I write lyrics and melodies. So a lot of times I would just pay somebody a day rate, and I'd be generous. I'd pay them pretty well. But it'd be my sort of creative ideas. And it's like, hey, you're signing a work for hire agreement. Like, I'm paying you your day rate. Thank you very much. But you're not entitled to royalties. I'm keeping royalties. So it kind of depends on who's doing the writing. And if she's just performing it, that's more of a work for hire situation. But if she's writing and contributing, or anybody writing and contributing to your track, you got to give them their due, right? And you want to give them their due because you want them self-inspired to come and work with you. Create a whole album full of dope tracks like this, like a full 12 album track, album that sounds this good. You're undeniable. Like, libraries cannot deny this stuff. Even if they have music like this, you can't deny this quality. So I see great things happening for you, man, with this song. Sean, let's see. Extremely informative videos. You're welcome. You're a drummer. Okay. Right on, man. I'm glad you're getting some value out of my videos. That's why I put them out. So thank you for the feedback. The issue I'm hearing is I hear kind of like some different chords or keys that various instruments are in. I don't feel like the cohesion is quite there enough. There's definitely promise in here, but I think you got to really focus and think about like what key you really want to focus on, because I hear a lot of conflicting tones, and it's giving this kind of sense of like awkwardness. Now, there is a sort of need for maybe kind of like bizarre music, right? Music that kind of makes you feel bizarre, especially for horror films or a scene that requires that kind of a thing. But it's not probably going to be the vast majority of placements and opportunities you're going to find in this business. So it's something to consider out. Also, I heard a lot of repetition probably that we could probably get away from here. I mean, it can work, but again, I hear like, you know, the low staccato ones and the low horns or the low strings, they feel like they're in the right key. And then when those other things come on top, it feels like they're like not supposed to be there, and it feels really mangled and kind of noisy. So just be careful about that with the keys and the strings that you're using there. I would say when you're starting out trying to get like into this kind of a world, orchestral backing music, that kind of thing, you probably want to stay away from odd experimental chord progressions. You want to kind of stick with things that are a little bit more easy to follow, you know, kind of all following the same key. Yeah, because this one feels much more together. Like, this feels very cohesive. This is cool. Kind of hear this is kind of like, you know, the theme of the bad guy in the movie or something, like you're in the dark layer somewhere. So yeah, that could possibly work out. So I understand, I can kind of see where you're going with that, but I just didn't quite feel that with the first part here. I would say though, probably not going so much for the dark, dreary, heavy, slow cues to start off with to build up your catalog. I'd probably start at least with the mid tempo. Think opportunity, think looking forward to something, think tension, think solving a crime, things that are a little bit more forward moving. This one feels very dark, it's heavy, it's dun 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 dun. You know, it's very almost like warlike, but like if it's gonna be a war cue, it should be more like upbeat, like we're going to war. Make people feel forward, like forward momentum looking, like they're looking forward to it. So I would just caution you against going and producing these kind of slower, really dramatic tracks like this, because I just don't see a lot of use for that in this industry. All right, a couple more guys, and then we're gonna call it for today, because I can still feel my throat, and I have to do a bunch of stuff today, and I can't have a voice that's gone on me, so I apologize for that. But I'll get to everybody who did submit to this opportunity. So, all right, Jay Walker Beats. Let's see what you got here, man. Okay, so I would have started my track right where that kick, that beat comes in, because that part grabbed me. First part didn't grab me with these kind of synths that are just, you know, that didn't really grab me. But that one, boom, 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 I was like, oh yeah, there's something going on there. Or maybe even just starting with those plucks without the drums. Bump, 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 drum fill, and then the drums come in. But catch the attention of your listener right away. So your issue, I think, is similar to other ones we've had, is the samples. You got to update these samples. They sound like they're presets, like you just grabbed them out of some synthesizer you were working with. So I think investing a little bit more in the kind of sounds that you're using will definitely help you out, because again, you've got melody, you've got rhythm, you've got leads. You're structuring this track in a cool way, but it's almost like you're just using the wrong tools. So it's not coming across as a professionally produced track, because the analogy I always use is that there are certain artists, you know, even a masterpiece kind of artist, if you just gave him broken crayons, he could make something kind of cool out of it, but it's not going to be nearly as polished and professional and inspirational as if he uses like his acrylic art set with, you know, 1,000 colors that he has or whatever, using the right easel, that kind of thing. So you got to start, if you're going to be a professional in this business, you got to have the right tools to get the job done. And using these kind of samples as they sound now, they just don't sound that inspiring or unique or modern enough. They just sound very kind of template sounding. So do yourself a favor and sort of reinvent yourself in terms of the samples that you're using, and you're going to instantly hear a difference in your tracks. I guarantee that. Yeah, and that's just what it is. It's like if you replace that kind of fluty synth thing, dun 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 dun, and you replace that with something more modern sounding, like it belonged on a top 40 hit, this is like a top 40 song, right? It's like right there. You've got obviously the right chord progressions. You've got the idea of how to make this thing move and feel good. It's just that the samples you're using make the track just seem like a karaoke version of a pop track, if that makes sense. And I'm not trying to be mean here, but I'm just trying to be honest with you. You got to update these samples. That's the only way that you're going to get your tracks to sound on par with the professionals out there, especially in this industry. So, all right, Surge, let's see what you got. You are welcome. very unique sound, man. I haven't heard anything like this probably ever before, so this is really cool. I kind of hear this more towards corporate advertising. That's kind of where I'm hearing this, because it feels it's like a clean. You have a very clean sound, and it's very inspirational, optimistic, looking forward. So like technology companies would love this kind of a thing. Maybe car commercials would be into this. So if that's something that comes naturally to you, maybe that's the lane for you to go into. But yeah, I dig it. Okay, so one thing I would suggest for you is to start using transitional effects rather than just stopping with your little snare there and then going into this next section. Get a riser to come up, or a white noise, something, and then when we go to that next part, let a crash happen, or an 808 drop, you know. Start getting used to the idea of cueing your listener in that a change is coming and not just surprise them with a change. You'll find that it'll smooth out the listening experience, and it'll also help a supervisor or an editor use more of your music, because if a track has a really grooving chorus part and then when it goes to the verse it feels like, whoa, just, you know, out of the blue this whole track changed, they're not going to use it, right? They're not going to want to use that track. So if you smooth out the listening experience a little bit more, and that's really all you're doing with a transitional effect, is you're just like giving your listener a clue, hey, change is coming, be prepared. It just smooths out the whole experience so that longer chunks of your track can be placed in a TV show. So and it'll definitely help add to the production quality of your music as well. Start using those sound effects. Like you just did there. So I might have spoke too early, but you definitely need something for this little turnaround. But you definitely have that sort of rising, hey, change is coming. So you got that part down. I would say, like, I like what you're doing there with the leads, but I think they feel like too dry and too tight. Like, I want to hear space in this track, because this makes me feel like we're floating in outer space, right? So to match that vibe, I want these bells or beeps, these synth things you have going on, to be like ba-bum, and just let them breathe, right? Like, let there be a lot of space around these leads so that we really feel like we are kind of floating in this magical, mysterious place in outer space. And that's the vibe that I'm getting, especially with your, you know, instruments you've chosen, your pads, etc. So just my take on that. It would help probably add to you selling this idea of like weightlessness, floating free, feeling carefree. And that's huge. I mean, you imagine how many advertisers want to convey that emotion to their audiences. Most of them do. Hey, you buy our product, you're carefree now. You're going to be great. You're going to be taken care of, right? Like maybe a retirement fund or some investment opportunity or something like that, right? And then just for your endings, I would make sure you try to end on that downbeat. Give us a solid, definite hit. You're going to find that most people are going to want that with libraries and stuff. So just get used to doing that rather than just letting it kind of just fade out like it does right now with that snare hit and not resolving the chord progression. You probably want to resolve it and go back to that root. All right, we're going to do 2 more and then I'm done, I promise. You enjoyed the 5-part video series. Awesome. Yeah, by the way, if you guys have not enrolled in my free 5-day music licensing course, link is below as well, in addition to the Syndicate. You got to go enroll in that thing, because that is like, I get a lot of questions, and I always say, hey, that's been covered in my 5-day class. Have you enrolled in that? And 9 times out of 10, they haven't. So if you still have questions and you're kind of not sure about this industry or how it'll work for you, or maybe it's going to be working, if it should be a good fit for you, click on that link below. Absolutely free, 5 days. I get great reviews on that course. People seem to love it. So don't miss out on that.
Something in my stomach is sick. It has been for years now. And something in my head's not right. It hasn't been for years now. But I know Yes, I know I'm gonna be alright.
So I hear this one more maybe for like an indie film, something like that. So I probably wouldn't see a lot of use for something like this, like as far as like getting this track placed in multiple TV shows and earning recurring revenue for years and years. So this is a very specialized kind of indie, unique feel that will work for many films for sure. I would, for your vocals, I'm assuming you're singing. I don't know if it's somebody else, but I would clean them up as far as pitch a little bit more. You know, get a little bit more into using some pitch correction on your vocals, or re-record them, because right now I'm hearing a little bit of waviness with the notes that you're hitting. It's kind of going and trust me, I know, because I'm a terrible vocalist, and every time I try to sing I get that all over the place. I'm not saying you're a terrible vocalist, but there's enough of that waviness kind of off pitch thing happening that it's not putting your track in a professional light. It's actually putting it more in like a demo light, like this is an idea for a track, and I know you want to have a finished, polished sound that a music supervisor would jump all over. So don't be afraid of pitch correction if you're not using it so much. You don't have to crank it up to the point where you sound like T-Pain. That's not what you need to do. In fact, in my producing and mixing and mastering course, I talk about how I definitely don't do that, but I still use it almost every time I put vocals in my tracks, because I want to make sure that if there's certain parts that are like, I want to go through and automate that and make sure that I catch those little problems. And then I let off of the settings so you don't hear that pitch correction happening anymore. But for those little parts that I'm hearing in your vocals, it's a little bit too distracting for it to be considered probably something that I would, if I were a music supervisor, put into one of my movies. So, you know, aside from that, like, you know, having a slow kind of chill track like this again is not going to get tons and tons of placements in TV. It's more the mid-tempo, up-tempo thing. But I've repeated myself many times on that one.
And it has for
Whispers don't really do so well on TV either. So if this would be something you want to tailor and kind of rework to make it more for TV film, probably would cut those whispers out. They normally are not really needed in TV music. Also, I think this needs to be more fully produced. It feels there's only the piano thing happening and some percussion in your vocals, but there's not a lot happening here.
Yes, I know, and I know.
Yeah, it's very like minimal. And again, some maybe indie movies would use something like this, but if you want to get into like music libraries that are doing TV music, you got to do fully produced tracks, right? You need to have a full drum set. You got to throw a bass in there, piano, maybe some guitars, percussion. It needs to be like bigger. This really feels like, hey, I have an idea. What do you think? And then another producer would come in and actually fully produce the track. So a little bit more production needs to be done if you want to bring your tracks up to the point of getting accepted in this business. And the lucky last person today is Adam Angelus. So you would appreciate it if I review your track Ethereal. You are absolutely going to get that right now. So sorry for the rest of you guys. I will get to you. Give me a day or two. I'll do another live review. I will get to everybody that followed directions and submitted to me the right way. I will get to all of you guys. So thank you for your patience on that. I'm not looking at comments today because I'm doing all of these reviews. I just don't have time to do Q&As today. Sorry, guys. But thank you guys for tuning in live. Those of you that are still watching at this point, you're really troopers. You're awesome. Thanks for hanging in there with me. And we'll do more of these coming up. So let's all shut up now and listen to your track here, man. So I definitely see corporate advertising in your future as well. I love how you have these transitional effects. You're kind of bringing us to a new place. You got that going on for yourself. So definitely keep that intact. That's awesome. This is a little bit slower, which can be done in the advertising world as long as you keep it inspirational and optimistic. The only thing that's kind of bothered me a little bit about your track is I feel there's some sort of key choices that are a little bit strange. Like that chord right there just feels a little off to me, that your pad's doing one thing and your guitars kind of go to a different place. So some part of this feels like it's kind of fighting itself and it's not quite fitting in right where it is. But if I were to kind of restructure this track, I would go more towards complete optimism. Like the world is getting better. Your brightest days are ahead of you. Like keep that kind of emotion in mind as you compose a track like this, because this has got corporate advertising and corporate training all over it. This is a really good feeling track. But I think you might need to just rethink, not change the instruments or the sounds you're using, just the chords, the percussion, or the melodies, right? The actual notes that you're choosing. Probably need to rethink those. Yeah, here with that pad, it's just kind of a little bit noisy. There's just a lot of kind of atonal sounds or just something that's happening outside of the key that's sort of distracting from it. But a lot of potential with this, though. I can definitely see you getting into that corporate world. So I would go for it. Now, I've had this issue with other members who submit via Box. Like it sometimes sounds like everything's really compressed and small. So I don't know if Box does something to their uploads when you guys send them to me, or if it's in your mixing. But I definitely hear a lot of compression. It's like this track feels very, very compressed. So you might want to ease up on your settings. But again, I don't know. I've heard other composers with Box, and it feels like it does the same thing. So there might be something happening with this app, this uploading process, that they do this to their tracks when you share them. So take this feedback with a grain of salt. I might be completely off on that one, but definitely a lot of potential with this corporate stuff. It's really awesome. So thank you guys so much. I am going to call it a day for today. Do not send me new tracks. I have closed the window for accepting submissions. If you screwed up and you didn't follow directions, you sent me an MP3, I'm sorry. It's too bad. You got to follow directions next time. I will do this again at some point. This is not something, obviously, you can see with doing like a 3-hour video. It's not something I can provide all the time. I just had a little bit of a space in my schedule this week to be able to provide something like this. So I'd like to, give back to you guys, give you guys a little bit further direction and guidance in this business. But do not send me any more. I've closed the window. I'm not accepting any more tracks. So if you send me something and say, I screwed up, give me a second chance, I'm deleting emails at this point, because you guys have seen how many I've gotten, and it's just so much that I got to be strict on the guidelines. For those of you that follow directions, you get rewarded. You get some feedback. Even if you don't get feedback from me, you can probably learn a lot just by watching these videos. So if you didn't watch this whole video and you kind of just skip through to try to find yours, I recommend you try to watch as much of it as you possibly can, because you will learn a lot from me reviewing other people's tracks. You'll learn about what they're doing well, what they're not doing well. And just because your track didn't get reviewed, it doesn't mean you can't learn something like very valuable from these feedback reviews. And I tell that to all of my Syndicate members for all the review videos I do. I say, try not to just go searching through just to get your track review. Listen to a couple of the tracks that I review, because you might learn something, and you probably will. And speaking of, last time, I will shamelessly self-promote. This video, this review process is brought to you by the Syndicate, which is my private mentoring Facebook group that provides licensing opportunities, homework assignments, Q&A videos, feedback on your tracks, etc. It's sort of like the more fast-track guided path towards doing well in this business. So if you'd like to learn about how to be a part of that and get feedback like this on a weekly basis, I give this kind of feedback to the members every single week, whether it's through a licensing opportunity or through homework assignments that I provide. You can get this kind of guidance on a very, very consistent basis, weekly, monthly basis, so that you're heading towards making your tracks better and getting closer to making this your full-time income. Click on the link below and you can learn all about it. I have that explainer video. You'll know what comes with it. You do still get a free 7-day trial of it, so you can go check it out, see what's going on in the Syndicate, see what's happening with our licensing opportunities, submit to anything you want to, look at any production tutorials I've uploaded, any homework assignments. You obviously get free trial to the master course, which gives you access to the week 1 video and a bonus homework assignment video. If you continue on with the trial, that's when you get the digital downloads, and obviously that's when you're going to get charged at the end of the 7 days. But the reason why I still offer that 7-day trial is because this isn't for everybody and it's not for all producers. So I want you to see for yourself before you continue on and decide. Like, I don't want any sort of, half-assers in this group. I want you to be 100% ready to go in this business, or not really for me. And it's totally cool. If you sign up with a free trial and you say, Jesse, not really for me, I cancel you instantly. Your card never gets charged. No hard feelings. You're always welcome back if you want to give it a shot later down the road. But I need to keep my membership levels high in the Syndicate because I want people who succeed, right? And in order to succeed, you got to come in with both feet and 100% commit to that. So if you're not ready, don't join, right? But if you think you might be ready, join for the 7-day trial. See for yourself. Decide if this is something that's going to be worth it for you. If the value that you get out of being part of this group will really be beneficial for you moving forward. And if the answer is yes, keep moving forward with us. You're going to see some amazing things happen with your career being a part of this group. And that's it, guys. So I'm going to log off now. Probably go make some tea with honey in it and rest